Hello, this is Gradye Parsons. I am the Stated Clerk of the General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church USA, and this is another episode in the continuing conversation about where are we going as a church. I'm going to refer again today to a book by Gil Rendle called Journey into Wilderness. Again, I want to highly recommend that you buy this book. I think it has something useful and insightful to say about us in the mainline churches and where we are and where we're going. The section I want to talk about today is based actually on a text from 2 Kings 18. In that story, the king of Assyria has come to conquer Jerusalem. And King Hezekiah in Jerusalem doesn't particularly want to be conquered. So he offers a counteroffer of many tons and pounds of gold. He strips the gold off the doors in the temple. He finds any piece of shiny he can find in Jerusalem and offers that to the king of Assyria. Well, that doesn't suit the king of Assyria. So he sends his cupbearer, his messenger, to the walls of Jerusalem and basically begins to make this offer, a counter offer to him. Well, King Hezekiah's cupbearer goes out to the wall and makes another offer. He says, please don't speak in Hebrew, speak in Aramaic so we can understand it. Now the real reason he didn't want him to speak in Hebrew was because the people inside the walls, behind the walls, would hear the threat for what it was and there'd be panic in the streets. And Rendle makes the point that often in the church, we have this sense that as leaders in the church, or even sessions, deacons, whoever, you really don't want the language to be changed so the people hear the fears that are there. They cover it up with different kinds of language. Walter Brueggemann says the church needs to learn to be bilingual. And by bilingual, I don't just mean we need to learn a different language like Spanish or French or German or Swahili. What we need to do is learn a language, both our interior language as a church, and own up to that, and learn the exterior language of the world beyond the church. Interior language, think of all the words that we use. They're really sort of code words that people wouldn't really understand unless they were part of the church. Even the simple term potluck, which does not use anywhere else in the world except inside churches, is a word we all value, but how many people carry pots around anymore with food in them? Not very many. Yes, it's a word we use in the church. So we have to learn what are the words we need to use in the world to describe what it is we are offering in the gospel in the church and what kind of language there. We need to move beyond our interior language with its code words and shortcuts into an exterior language where we hear what people are saying, what the world is saying. How does the world understand faith? It's often you can get in these extended conversations with people who seem to be using completely different words, have completely different meanings, but the actuality is that they're saying the same thing. We just need to be able to hear it in their language, to be able to communicate with them and to let them communicate with us what it is of value, what is important to them. If you look in the Word of Scripture, you'll find place after place after place where it talks about the needs of people to have shelter and the obligation to provide shelter. In Jeremiah, it talks about people building their houses out of unrighteousness and their upper rooms out of injustice. So that is language that we use inside the walls. Outside the walls is the language of habitat, of rebuilding neighborhoods, of rebuilding people's lives. That's the outside language. And those two languages are really compatible, but we need to be able to treat that translation of what it is we say inside ourselves and what we have to say outside of ourselves, outside beyond the walls. Rendle says he confesses that he's worked with many churches that he thinks are dying from terminal seriousness. They're so serious about so many things, so serious about getting things right. Their language inside the church is so serious that the people on the outside don't see the joy that we have in the gospel. I'll give you a couple instances. I was in a church recently. It's a pretty good church. It's doing pretty well. But all over this church, there was what I call negative signage. Don't do this here. Don't do that there. Children, don't touch this. Make sure you put this back. It was over and over again. You had the sense, even beyond the written rules in this church, there were lots of unwritten rules that if you tripped over them, you'd be unwelcome there. That's not very helpful at all. Another church, they did it, and it was a humorous thing. There's this little country church. They'd saved their money and they'd repaved their parking lot. Right next to the church was a large cemetery. So in their efforts to repave the parking lot and move things around, they had taken the sign that said reserved for minister and moved it from the building where it used to be and put it over on the fence next to the cemetery. So you weren't real clear from the image whether the space that was reserved for the minister was for his car or for his coffin. Could have gone either way. So signage is one way we tell about the language inside the church. Another way is just the way we greet each other and the greetings we have that are different for people that are new to us and the greetings we have for people that are familiar to us. Again, the shortcut language, the the terms in the Bible. Let's sing a hymn, but let's don't use our hymn books because everybody knows it. Well, not everybody knows every hymn anymore. So we need to be mindful when you look at your church and look at how we're moving towards the future, that we need to become bilingual, as Brueggemann said, become bilingual, understanding the language of our church, our interior life as a church, and understanding the life of the world. How does the world hear what it means to be faithful, to be spiritual, to be part of a community, to be part of something that's trying to change the world, which is what we're all trying to do. So let's continue this conversation, both interior language and exterior language. Let's continue to discover together where God is leading the church. Thank you.